What if the anxiety you have been carrying, the racing thoughts at 2 a.m., the knot in your chest that never fully loosens, the endless mental rehearsal of every possible disaster? What if it had already been diagnosed, named, and solved thousands of years before you were born? What if a Roman emperor, writing alone in a military tent, and a Hebrew king, writing by lamplight in Jerusalem, had both already mapped the exact path out of the fear that is consuming you right now? Their names were Marcus Aurelius and Solomon, and between the pages of Meditations and the book of Proverbs, they left you a complete guide to overcoming anxiety that no therapist, no app, and no prescription has ever fully replaced. Anxiety is the defining crisis of our generation. Over 300 million people worldwide are currently living with an anxiety disorder. Billions more experience chronic low-grade anxiety as their default state, a background hum of dread, worry, and what if that colors every single day. We have more tools than any generation in history. More therapy, more medication, more mindfulness apps, more self-help books, and yet the anxiety numbers keep rising. Why? Because most modern solutions treat the symptoms. They don't address the root. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of armies, student of Stoic philosophy, spent years writing private journals about his own battle with anxiety, fear, and the weight of responsibility. He called his anxiety by its real name, and then systematically dismantled it using the tools of Stoic discipline. Solomon, the wisest king in Scripture, writer of Proverbs, built an entire book around the architecture of a peaceful, grounded, anxiety-resistant mind. Together, they form one of the most powerful anti-anxiety frameworks ever assembled. Here are 5 lessons from both. Lesson 1. Anchor your mind to what is true. The first and most foundational lesson from both Marcus Aurelius and Solomon is this: anxiety lives in distortion. It cannot survive contact with truth. Anxiety tells you the worst is certain. Truth says the worst is possible, but rarely probable. Anxiety tells you everything is falling apart. Truth asks, what is actually, demonstrably, verifiably falling apart, right now, in this moment? Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He understood that anxiety is almost always a mind running ahead of reality, attaching certainty to uncertainties, catastrophizing possibilities into probabilities, living in a future that has not arrived and may never arrive. Proverbs 12, verse 25. Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. Solomon understood the physical weight of anxiety, the heaviness, the constriction, the way it presses down on everything. And he pointed immediately to the power of truth spoken kindly, to yourself and to others. Modern cognitive behavioral therapy is built on exactly this principle. Identify the distorted thought, test it against reality, replace it with what is actually true. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, the trained ability to pause before accepting a thought as fact, to hold it up to the light, to ask, is this actually true? Or is this my anxious mind generating fiction and calling it forecast? The next time anxiety spikes, before you do anything else, write down the exact thought driving it. Then ask 3 questions. Is this thought definitely true? What is the evidence for and against it? What would I tell a close friend who had this exact thought? This single practice, used consistently, is one of the most clinically validated anxiety interventions in existence. And it is exactly what Marcus Aurelius was doing alone in his tent 2,000 years ago. Lesson 2. Guard the gate of your mind. Both Marcus Aurelius and Solomon were obsessed with the same idea, that the quality of your inner life is determined entirely by what you allow in. Not what happens to you, what you let through the gate. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are." He practiced what the Stoics called prosophe, a disciplined, watchful awareness of what thoughts, fears, and impressions you are allowing to take root in your mind. In a world of 24-hour news, endless social media, and algorithmically engineered outrage, this discipline is not optional. It is survival. Proverbs 4, verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Above all else. He placed it above financial wisdom, above relational wisdom, above all the other instructions in Proverbs. Guard your heart. Guard the source. Because everything downstream, your decisions, your relationships, your peace, your anxiety levels, flows from what you have allowed to take up residence at the center. Anxiety is almost always a downstream problem with an upstream source. You cannot fix the river by treating the water. What are you letting in every morning before your mind has its defenses up? What are you consuming last thing at night when your guard is lowest? The answers to those two questions explain most of your anxiety. For the next 7 days, no phone for the first 30 minutes after waking, and no phone for 30 minutes before sleeping. Replace that time with silence, prayer, or slow reading. This single boundary change has been shown in multiple studies to significantly reduce baseline anxiety within 1 week. Solomon and Marcus Aurelius both had a version of this practice. They just called it wisdom instead of a digital detox. Lesson 3. Trust the architect. You are not in charge. Here's the anxiety secret that neither the therapy industry nor the self-help world wants to fully admit. A significant portion of your anxiety exists because you believe somewhere deep down that you are solely responsible for outcomes that are actually far beyond your control. And the weight of that false responsibility is crushing you. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the most powerful empire on earth, wrestled with this constantly. He had more responsibility than almost any human who has ever lived. And his conclusion, recorded in the Meditations, was not to try harder to control more. His conclusion was to do his part excellently and release everything else to the nature of things. Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Lean not on your own understanding. This is one of the most countercultural instructions in Scripture, and one of the most anxiety-reducing if you actually practice it. Your perspective is partial. Your ability to predict outcomes is far weaker than your anxiety would have you believe. The Stoics called the recognition of your own limitations sophrosynny, a kind of wise, grounded humility that produces peace rather than paralysis. Solomon calls it trust. Marcus Aurelius calls it acceptance of the logos, the rational order of things. Both men are saying the same thing. You are not the architect. You are a participant. Do your part with full integrity and release the blueprints. Write down everything you are currently anxious about. Then put a circle around every item that is genuinely, entirely within your control. Everything outside that circle, pray over it. Name it to God and physically close the notebook. This is not denial. This is the ancient discipline of releasing what was never yours to carry. Do this practice weekly. Watch your anxiety list get shorter. Not because life gets easier, but because your grip on it changes. Lesson 4. The present moment is anxiety-proof. Of all the insights shared by Marcus Aurelius and Solomon, this one may be the most immediately practical and the most immediately powerful. Anxiety cannot exist in the present moment. Anxiety, real clinical anxiety, is always about a future that has not happened or a past that cannot be changed. It is never about right now. Right now you are breathing. Right now you are here. Right now in this exact moment, you are almost certainly safe, provided for, and intact. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." He was not dismissing the future. He was pointing out that your anxiety about it is being experienced right now, and right now is the only place you have any power. Proverbs 17, verse 22. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Solomon understood the physical reality of chronic anxiety. Crushed spirit, dried bones. Language that maps directly onto what modern medicine calls the physiological effects of chronic stress. Inflammation. Immune suppression. The cheerful heart, the settled, present, grateful heart, is not just emotionally better, it is medically better. It is biologically better. And it is only available right now. Not in the resolved future. Not in the explained past. Now. The ancient practice of returning to the present moment, whether through Stoic meditation, biblical prayer, or simply 3 conscious breaths, is the most evidence-based anxiety intervention that exists. When anxiety spikes today, use this single practice. Stop. Name 5 things you can see right now. 4 things you can physically feel. 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell. 1 slow, deep breath. This grounds you in the present moment, the only place anxiety cannot follow you. Marcus Aurelius did this. Solomon prescribed it. Modern neuroscience confirms it. And it takes less than 60 seconds. Lesson 5. Wisdom is the long-term cure for anxiety. The 5th and final lesson is the one that both Marcus Aurelius and Solomon would have called the most important, and the one that our quick-fix culture is least willing to hear. There is no shortcut out of chronic anxiety. There is only the long, steady, daily practice of building wisdom. Wisdom, not information, not hacks, not techniques. Wisdom, the deep knowing that comes from sitting with hard questions, from walking through difficult seasons without running, from choosing virtue when comfort was available, from trusting when the evidence was ambiguous. Marcus Aurelius spent decades building wisdom through daily journaling, study, and self-examination. He did not arrive at peace. He practiced toward it every single day. Proverbs 3, verses 13 to 15. Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. More precious than rubies, more profitable than gold. Solomon, the wealthiest king in history, said wisdom is worth more than everything he owned. Because wisdom is the only thing that changes not just how you respond to anxiety, but who you are in the presence of it. A wise person is not someone who never feels anxiety. A wise person is someone who has practiced, over years and decades, the art of not being ruled by it. That is the goal. Not the absence of fear, the presence of something stronger. And that something is built one quiet, disciplined, faithful day at a time. 5 lessons. 2 of the wisest men who ever lived. 1 ancient enemy called anxiety, and a complete map for overcoming it. Anchor your mind to what is true. Guard the gate of what you let in. Trust the architect. Release what is not yours. Return to the present moment where peace already lives. Build wisdom, slowly, daily, faithfully. Anxiety is not a modern problem with a modern solution. It is a human problem with an ancient answer. Marcus Aurelius found it in the discipline of the mind. Solomon found it in the fear of God and the pursuit of wisdom. And both of them are handing it to you right now, across thousands of years, saying, this is the way. You do not have to keep carrying what you have been carrying. If this video gave you one thing worth practicing today, share it with someone who needs it. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Every week, we bring together ancient wisdom, living faith, and the real challenges of modern life, because the answers you need are older than your anxiety. Until next time, anchor to truth, guard your mind, and trust the one who holds what you cannot carry.